So I know that a bunch of you that follow me personally have been waiting for this vlog all week. And my apologies, because in vlogging, you have to respect the privacy and the emotions of everybody else involved as well. So today I'm going to film it. It's been 1 week since the home invasion in Sherwood Park. I was home alone, and you can still see a bit of a black eye, kind of have bruises all over my body. And I've been brave enough to wear this black eye out in public. I went out Saturday night and covered it up, but it's a lot of work to cover it up. So, yeah, I've been dealing with that social stigma too. So if you look at someone with a black eye, just think that there may have been something else to the story than what you're first assuming. Anyway, I'm going to put a viewer discretion advised on this video. Maybe my first and only, let's hope my only video that I ever put viewer discretion advised, because I'm going to walk you guys through the details of my home invasion. And for some of you, it may be a little bit difficult to hear. I'm going to try and go in as much detail as possible, because the reality is what happened to me really could happen to anybody. I'm in a suburb in Canada that's probably considered one of the safest suburbs you can be in our area. They call it Sure White Park because there really is no diversity. It's the place like people move to raise kids. It's one of those things that I think in Florida I never would have answered the door, but I think in Canada you just don't even think twice about it. So I thought it was really important to make this vlog, because I do want you guys to know how easy this was for it to happen to me, and I just want to make sure that you guys have a heads up and it doesn't happen to you. My apologies in advance. This video might be a little bit long, but I'm going to try and go in as much detail as possible. So at about 10:30 in the morning, a guy stopped by. Now, you've seen him before in some of my other videos. I stay with my friend Dobbs when I come to Canada, and he owns a business. So somebody stopped by claiming to know him, called him by his first name, wanted to see him for business stuff, and I said, well, he's still asleep. So then they came back. He had left to go to work for a couple hours. The person came back, asking for him again, clearly checking, in hindsight, clearly checking to see if he was home. When I said he's not home, go see him at the shop. And then I called Dobbs and I said, you know, there's somebody really kind of shady around your house. Answer your phone, like make sure you deal with this business, because I don't really feel comfortable having it at your house. I don't want to deal with it. This guy is kind of not cool. So he asked at that point if he wanted me, or if I wanted him to come home. And I said no, because I didn't think, it's Sherwood Park. I didn't think anything of it. So at that point I said, you know, I'm just not going to answer the door. If he comes back, you know, whatever. So I went back to work, and I was working away editing videos for you guys. And then at about 4 o'clock, I had another knock on the door, and there was two guys there. And one of them asked if I wanted, I didn't open the door very far, but one of them asked if I wanted my walks shoveled. And I said no, and went to close the door. And when I went to close the door, they shoved the door in. I screamed as loud as I could. You know, one of the discussions this week has been, maybe I need to take a self-defense course. You know, I've taken them. There just really wasn't much you could do, and we'll get through that. But so I screamed as loud as I could. The neighbor did hear me, and she acknowledges that she heard me, but she thought it was her mom falling down the stairs. So when she went and checked on her mom, and her mom was fine, she just kind of left it. And they say that in home invasions, that's often what happens. Like, they'll break a window, you only hear the noise once, and nobody goes to look. If they hear the noise twice, they'll go look. So that's a pretty common thing to happen. So they shoved me to the ground, and at that point, I'm like clutching for life to my phone. And they hit me across the head a few times. When I wouldn't let go of my phone, they hit me again and said, give us the phone. So I gave them the phone, because I have post-concussion syndrome, so getting hit across the head, not so fun. So at that point, they were covering my eyes with their mittens, and then they went and got a pillowcase from somewhere else in the house, and then put a pillowcase over my head. And then they zip-tied my hands tightly together, and you can't see them now. I mean, there's maybe a little mark here or two on my hands, but when we were in the ER, there was like bleeding on my hands, and like I had pretty red marks around my wrists. And so I was pretty tightly tied with zip ties. They tied me in the front, so at least I had a little bit of movement. The pillowcase was really tight to begin with, and I just asked them to let me breathe, and they did that. So then they were asking where the safe was, and you know, I didn't know. I'm a guest in someone's house. Like, I don't actually know there might be a safe. I didn't know. So I was like, I don't know. And I said, I think he keeps everything in the safe at the shop, right? So I don't, you know, I was like, I don't. So they kept asking for the safe, and then they went upstairs. They were looking for guns and money specifically. They did take a bunch of the electronics, but a lot of the electronics are still here, like anything that was a little heavier or harder to move. So they basically cleared out my whole business. But we'll get to that. So they take me upstairs to the bedroom, to the master bedroom. And then, so I'm blindfolded, I can't see. They put me at the foot of the bed and tell me to lay face down on the bed. And I was like, that's not going to happen. Like, I will fight to my death if that's going to happen. So I basically ended up kneeling to the side of the bed, almost in a praying position because the way my hands were tied. And they seemed to let me be there. And then at that point, one of the guys tried to choke me out. And now, ladies, if you've never been choked out, I'm going to say go find a friend to do it for you, because one of the saving graces of what I was doing, and in that moment, you're just trying to keep your head about you. When they had originally shoved me down and tied me up, they said if I keep fighting, they'll drug me. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to fight, because I'm better to have a level head here and try and get out of this situation alive. So when we went upstairs and they went to choke me out, I have a friend who's an MMA fighter, and I just had them choke me out for fun. Make sure it's someone you trust. Don't just go do it. And he's choked me out before. So I know in that moment, while I'm thinking, you know, the thoughts that are running through your head, you're like, fuck, I'm going to end up in a, like, prostitution circle somewhere. Good thing I'm old. Sorry, I have to joke about this. It's how I cope. So the guy was choking me out. But at that point, you know, if you don't know what it is to be choked out and how that feels, that can be a lot more devastating, I'm sure. So I know that I'm like, okay, let him choke me out. I know that I'm going to come to. I'm going to be okay. It's not going to be very long. So they can't get me very far before I'm going to come to. So I know in that situation that I'm relatively safe. Like, I'm not 100% safe, but I know what that situation feels like, that, you know, I can have a reasonable response, and that when I come to what it feels like to come to, like, you're not groggy, you can have a response system. So that really helped in that situation. And then in the meantime, while this guy's doing that to me, some guy, just as I was about to go unconscious, like I was about a second away from going unconscious, one of the other guys walked in and told him to stop. So at that point, I figured there's some sort of personal connection to Dobbs, whether they knew somebody who knew somebody, and that's our best guess. I mean, he's a business owner. So I could hear them going through everything, and they kept yelling at me, like, where's the guns? Where's the money? Where's the safe? And I don't know. It's not my house. And as far as I knew, there was no guns in the house. And at this point, I'm very thankful there wasn't any guns in the house. They threatened to hit me over the head with a sledgehammer if I didn't tell them where the guns were. When I didn't tell them, they hit me again in the face. I have several blows to the head. You can't see them. I have bruises all over my body. So they went up in the attics. They ripped through all the drawers. They were certain they were looking for guns and money. Then they took me down to the next set of stairs in the landing in the front entrance, and they were looking for car keys, which were in the garage in the vehicle. So they loaded up. I had my dad's Honda Element, which the seats were flipped up, so it was a convenient getaway vehicle. So they loaded everything up in the back of that and took that. So I was sitting on the stairs, and I was sitting there for several minutes at that point. And what I realized after, when I wasn't blindfolded, was that the sledgehammer that they were threatening me with was sitting right next to me on those stairs for probably 3 or 4 minutes. Then I think they were trying to decide what to do with me at that point, and then they took me down to the basement and tied me to the gas line in the laundry room. And then the fridge alarm went off because they had opened the fridge and ruffled through that. They'd gone through everything. They took my computer, my video camera, everything, basically everything, a cell phone, everything I need to do business. So I've kind of started from square one. Insurance doesn't want to cover it. That's another story. So I'm tied to the gas line in the basement, and they just keep saying, don't move. And as long as I don't move, I don't get hit. The second I even try to move, I get hit. So at that point, I'm just trying not to move. At that point, when they hear the alarm on the fridge, they take off. And I can't hear anything or any noise for a few minutes. And then I start moving to pull the pillowcase off my head, hoping I'm not going to get hit again, and can't hear them or anything, so pull that off. And then ripped my hands out of the zip ties and went and went over to the neighbor and made some calls to the police and to Dobbs, and that's when the neighbor acknowledged that she'd heard it and probably could have done something. Anyway, it's been a long week. I've had limited access to everything. The bruises are starting to heal. Now it's just sort of putting my life back together. At the end of all of this, it's been a week now. Like 2 days ago, the Honda Element was used in 2 murder cases that they went to Mac stores. I'll put the links to articles below for you guys in the video, but there was 2 Mac stores. There was 2 people killed, and the Honda Element was used in that. And they were in a high-speed chase. So the police called me on Saturday, and said that was, in fact, my vehicle. So once EPS is done their, Edmonton Police Service has done their investigation, it goes over to the RCMP, and the RCMP can do their investigation. Once they released the names of the 2 guys, I did go online and Google them. And then I went to the one guy's Facebook and found the 3rd guy that I can identify for this case. So we have talked to the RCMP and given them that information. They basically destroyed the whole house. Anyway, I'm doing okay. I'm better than I expected to be. So that's a good thing at this point. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been amazing and supportive this week. Couldn't have gotten through this without Dobbs and Cindy and Dawn. They've been phenomenal. And Hillary's running the show for me in Florida, trying to pick up the pieces and send them back up here. So Hillary and Dave, her husband, have been great. So there's been a lot of people who've been really awesome this week, and I'm thankful to have them in my life, and I'm thankful to have my life at this point. So I just wanted to give you guys all the details as best I could. And if you have questions now that you've watched the video, I'm more than happy to answer them. But it was just a lot. I know I put a lot of you guys off in terms of not answering your questions until I got this done, so that I didn't have to tell this story 600 times to all of you, just because all of us were trying to deal with this and sort of move forward with our lives. Anyway, thanks you guys. Love you guys.